This is Carol Crack for the Hastings Oral History Project on April 19th, 1988. I'm talking with Jack Lynch at the Hastings Terrace Apartments at 555 Broadway, Apartment 2F. Jack, were you born in Hastings?
Born in Hastings at 54 Washington Avenue. Uh, 1913.
1913. Can you tell us a little about your family?
Yes. We lived there for years. I had a sister, brother Frank, which has worked in Anaconda and National Conduit and all that pizzazz. My first recollection of the waterfront at the age of 5 in 1918. Which at that time the river was frozen over solid. And it was an expedition of the family. Mother and Dad had me in the sled. And we went down to the public dock. From there we had a gangplank to a barge. And then we spent the day on the river. And one of the most frightening things, and I think why I remember it, at that particular time, all the people were going across the river and bringing back firewood, which they used for heating mostly in those days. And one of them dropped a log between the dock and the gangway and scared hell out of me. But anyway, my life along the waterfront basically has always been a love affair. And even growing up to the age of 10 and on through there, we basically lived on the river. And with our different neighbors and everything else, and like in the pavement company and everything else, we used to go down there and bring lunches to the different family members, like the McCartans and things like that. The thing we liked about it was the fact that at the pavement company they used donkeys to pull their carts around, and they used to let us ride the ponies.
Did you rent the apartment?
The apartment.
It was rented, yes. And what was it like?
It's sort of a railroad flat. You start off in the kitchen, you go on back. It's 2 bedrooms, a dining room, and the living room. It's at the front of the house. And of course, in those days, the living room was only opened on Sundays.
Right.
Because you heated really either coal stove or wood. And the apartment was the same way. The kitchen stove was going all the time with wood and coal. And it was a very happy affair. Matter of fact, we lived right across from the Steinschneider's on the Schneider's.
Yes, it was on the lower part of
Now right across, it's halfway up above the
right,
Historical Society, and we used to play with them when they were our age at that time. Then at the same time, during World War I, in back of the house where William Street and everything else, that was just a great big open field. William Street didn't exist. And we all had big garden spaces during the war. And mother, dad, and brother, sister, and the other 2 families in the house all shared space. And grew all their vegetables and things like that. Then adjacent to that particular area where Lipschitz Studios is at the time, that was a great big open field. It was a picnic area. And we used to have a platform there, dancing, and then all around the perimeter on that whole hilltop were little dance platforms with the different ethnic groups, the Russians, the Poles, the Irish, and similar to Draper Park, and that was our part of our social life.
And did you enjoy dancing?
Hmm?
Did you enjoy
Well, I was a
dancing?
kid at that time. My biggest thing was birch beer and ice cream.
Yeah.
But one of the things we used to like, after a weekend, mostly a weekend activity, we'd go to the platform where people would lose coins and we'd go searching for that. And that gave us some spending money.
Uh-huh. Then you went through the Hastings School.
St. Matt's.
Oh, you went to St.
St.
Matthew's.
Matt's, and graduated in 28 from there, went to the Hastings Public Schools.
Oh, St. Matthew's went up to 8th grade? Is that right?
And that school was located where the rectory is now, Warburg.
Oh, yes.
And they tore it down and built a new rectory in there.
Can you tell us something about your school life? Or,
I was very active.
were you involved with athletics?
Well, St. Matt's didn't have much of a program.
No, but
matter of fact, they only had 4 classrooms.
Oh, it was
It
small.
was split up. And, it was actually 4 rooms, and that's the way it was at that particular time.
Did you take a foreign language in high school?
No. Athletics, basketball, track.
Mm-hmm.
For a couple of years there, we had the championship basketball team at the Hudson River.
Then you didn't work at all, you didn't have any odd jobs when you went to high school,
Well, of course.
did you?
I did. I used to work for James Butler. I can potatoes and stuff like that in the back room, running errands, helping customers out.
Was that a grocery store?
Yeah, that's approximately where, who's in there now? Actually, it's part of the big market down there. It was divided up
I see.
just before that. And that's where that was. And there was another one over on Main Street, Daniel Reeves, where the Green Tavern exists. That's another one that we used to go over and pick up a nickel or a dime and stuff like that. And then from there, like I'd say, it would be along the waterfront. Going down, like Bill Russell's band had a little concession under the old stairway that went there to get into Anaconda. And he sold candy and cigarettes and tobacco and stuff. And Bill and I would often get down there, and his dad was either working or something else, like I'll open it up and either in the morning or noon time and quitting time and the shift changed. So that was a forerunner of coffee machines and mechanical things.
Was that mainly for the people who worked at Anaconda?
Yeah.
Yes, it was a convenience for
It
them.
was a convenience for them.
Then when did you start your job at Anaconda?
Oh, I started my job actually in 37, but prior to that, even during high school, about 31, 32, I used to work part-time in the different areas of the mill. And it wasn't until 37 when I went to work full-time.
Now, you said your father had worked, was he at Anaconda or?
Oh, yes.
Yes. What kind of job did he do there?
He was a specialist on how to treat copper. Copper is made in all different tensile strengths, hard copper absorb copper and everything, and all, so this whole thing would change the application of heat, different temperatures and stuff like that. And then he was also in dye making, which is, in other words, you take a fairly heavy piece of copper and runs through the dye and reduces it to a smaller size. And that's what he had done. And Brother Frank was about the same. He got into a little heavier end of basically job production manager. He more or less learned an engineering degree just by his know-how.
Then what kind of work did you do when you started?
When I started, it was worked in cable accessories, preparing different mixtures for when the cable comes out outside and they terminate a cable, they use what they call pot heads and stuff like that. They used to mix up all the group that went in there, that can and stuff like that, or they made connectors, which I used to have to take and dip in acid and clean and pack for shipping. That's some of the things that 37 I got into electrical maintenance.
Did you like your job, or?
Well, of course, I liked my job, and one thing led to another, and got maintenance, ships around the clock, and stuff like that. And
The shifts would change?
well,
You
you
would.
got three
Yeah.
shifts, but you were either morning 8 to 5 or 5 to 12. 12
And they
to
would
8.
change each week?
It's almost every week until there was an opening for a permit. Everybody tried to get on days.
I'll bet.
So up until that time, until they built their knowledge of the plant and everything else like that. And, that's how that works out. Now also, what do I say, anywhere from 10 years old up until even in high school, we used to live on the river, Tower Ridge Yacht Club. We were more or less what you term today as boat jockeys.
I see.
And we'd clean the boats and do that for customers and swim in the river and do all that good stuff.
Did you ever have a boat?
Hmm?
Did you ever have
No,
a
we
boat?
didn't have to. We used the other people's.
I see. So when you were playing by the river lots of the
All the time. No,
Yeah.
all these kids lived down there. We get down to public dock. And, of course, during the hot weather, we skinny dipped off the end of it. Or lots of times we'd wait for the different freight boats that would come up and bring stuff to the merchants. And, that's what we have done.
Fishing? Did you go fishing at all, or weren't you
I
interested?
wasn't interested in fishing, although it was good and everybody enjoyed. The one thing I did enjoy was crabbing.
Oh.
And that was always, and they had crabs in those days, not like today.
Really? And then did you eat them? Or?
Hmm?
Did you eat them?
Bring them home, the family and that. That was before all the PCB and all that stuff.
Right.
And right after graduation, I spent almost a whole year in Maryland.
Oh,
with
did
my
you?
folks, my brother's folks. They all had big farms down there. And that's where we really had the fun of being in the country. That's where I fell in love with Maryland. I still enjoy it.
You still like that area?
Very, very much.
Were you involved in any strikes at Anaconda?
No. I was president of the union.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
that time, it was just formative with the unions, basically. And although they did have problems here before with my dad, they pulled strikes down there. So, not related to unions, but just fighting for their rights.
I see.
But my dad used to tell us they got real hectic. They had to go down to Yonkers, and Anaconda had 2 lighters. In other words, they were self-powered lighters, which used to bring the copper up from Perth Amboy from the smugglers down there. They used to use these during the strikes and pick up the non-strikers, Yonkers, and bring them in by water so they weren't interrupted on land.
Can you tell us anything about the relationship between the workers and management?
Well, at that particular time, during my interim down there, it was very peaceful. There was never any threats, and that didn't change until just before I went into service. The CIO got in there and had a vote and everything else like that, and they went CIO, and later on became AFL and CIO combined.
And
that was
about what year was that?
That was around 42. That was the last year I was president of the union down there. Then from there on, I went into service.
You were in the service for how long?
For 2 years.
For 2 years.
43, 45, the Pacific area.
And then did you go back to Anaconda?
I did after the war, but only for a short time. And had a position for North American Phillips in Dobbs Ferry as chief electrician.
I see.
It was a better opportunity.
Yes, I remember you as an electrician, yes.
Well, just after high school, I had an opportunity to become a school crossing guard. And at that time, you also served as a patrolman in the village of Hastings. And at that time, you had one car, and usually a desk sergeant. And you filled in, performed duties of a police officer.
Did you have any training for this? Did you have training for this?
No, just common sense.
Well, then, would you have been up by the Four Corners? Is that where you would
No, right
be?
opposite the school usually was my place, on Linda Avenue, and that was it. But the experience of covering weekends as a patrolman was quite a novelty and a lot of excitement.
Then you would ride with a police officer?
No, I'd be by myself. You only had one car, and you'd cover the whole village. That's all, and that was it.
Oh, that's really fascinating.
But the different incidents, like fights and things that break out in Sigorsky's Hall, and made it quite a challenge. One of the things in my favor was I knew most of the people, so when they'd see me around, they'd quiet down.
Did you wear a uniform? Did you wear? Yes.
No, yeah, they makeshift uniform. You barred one of the other guys, and that was it. Well, you had dark pants and all that good stuff.
No gun?
Huh?
No gun?
Oh, yeah, you carried it.
Did you really? Well, can you think of any other stories that might be interesting for this project?
Well, we had a lieutenant, I will not mention his name. He was on the desk this one Saturday night, and I had to come in the desk to relieve him. He went out for supper, and he was down at Lower Washington Avenue at Pupko's Bar and Grill. In the meantime, I guess I'm at the desk about a half hour, and I get a call from, what's the matter, Lieutenant? He says the fight at Sigariski's Hall, and I'll get a taxi, and as soon as I get to the desk, you go down and take care of it. Now, he's 2 doors away. He didn't want to face up.
He'd rather you did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That was funny. But, as the end result of that, I took civil service exam, and also at the same time, Harold Edwards budget.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I had the opportunity of being permanently appointed to the staff. But I was making more money and better opportunities outside what they were paid at that time. Harold did take it, and he worked as a patrolman for a short time before he joined the staff at the high school.
Thinking back to your high school days, can you remember any of the teachers or?
Yeah, one I'm still around today. Sarah Jones, my English teacher.
She was your English teacher, yes.
And Mrs. Schmidt, she was a drama teacher at the time.
Ethel Schmidt?
Hmm?
Is Ethel Schmidt?
We used to call her. It was up on Pleasant Avenue. Very small, very petite. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Skagey.
Skagey, yes,
Yeah, we
right.
used to call her that. Then it was a Fisher, it was mathematics. Earl McKinstry was the, if you needed an extra point or so, you spend it with him. I was interested in dramatics. Matter of fact, one of our things we would see about Bouquet, which we performed on stage, had a lot of fun. As far as my theatrical background, my dad used to perform and direct minstrel shows all over Hastings. Both my brother was a singer and myself. I remember being in Hastings Theater and my song was a prisoner's song. And I got off on the wrong tone, embarrassed myself, but everybody liked it. I mean, there was an awful lot of talent in Hastings as far as that's concerned.
Now, where would a minstrel show be given? At the school? Or?
Usually it started off like Protection Engine Company used to have it, and we did an awful lot of practice and had the shows to the FW. And matter of fact, some of the shows were so good. This is before I had really gotten into it. That they put it on for different clubs in different areas in Irvington and places like that. But that was quite an experience. And, that's far as the social life and what we have done, and any more than Uniontown with its section. The focal point of social life was the firehouse.
And you did get involved in the fire department.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I joined the fire department in '36. Worked my way up to almost every office. Captain. That was in '41, an interlude of being overseas. I'd come back and work myself up to the chief of the department.
And, when were you married, Jack?
Married in '41 to Elizabeth Cullis, who lived at 69 Washington Avenue.
Oh, yes. And you have children?
I had two girls, Patricia and Betsy, Elizabeth.
Yeah. Are they still in Hastings?
No. Patricia is over in Nyack. She has 5 children.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
There they are behind me. The big grouping.
Yes, yeah.
That's my grandchildren.
Wonderful.
The other pictures there are of Dean's family.
Yes, yeah.
Betsy is in Minneapolis. and she travels. She works for Control Data, and he's teaching. She first started out at Andrews as a teacher in their school, and Control Data gave them a computer, and they put her in charge. And she went to Wayne University, got her degree, a master's degree in word processing and whatever. And Betsy was also into learning disabilities from the school was down there, Seton.
Elizabeth Seton?
Seton,
Yeah.
and she completed it up there. That was her. Matter of fact, I don't think we should put this down. Stop it.
Okay. Can you recall about any fires on the waterfront?
There were many, even when I was young, and before I was in the fire department, the Hastings Pavement Company was hit by a very heavy fire. And they had several down there, and then it was hit once more again, and that was the end of the Hastings Pavement Company. They never rebuilt.
Do you have any idea what year that would have been? Or it's hard to remember, I know.
Oh, I'd say when I was 13, so that's 26. Somewhere, and then the final one was, I forget what year that was. We had that all coordinated when we had that exhibit there, and I had pictures and everything else and stuff like that. Since it was noted for fires, and one which occurred down there was an explosion. We had one person killed, and he happened to be a fireman, but he worked at the plant. He was on duty at that particular time. His name was Crofton Taylor. That's an old Hastings family. I have a whole raft of pictures and stuff like that, too, that belong to the society and everything else like that. We had dated them and everything else, but it gets a little bit foggy. There's one other thing you might add, that during the war, I was in charge of training firemen in Anaconda. I worked under the Army Corps of Engineers and the Navy. Under their direction, I trained the men, bought all new equipment, set up fire watches because of the war threat. And so that led to an awful lot of experience in firefighting, and in conjunction with being chief of the village.
And there were air raid drills at that time,
Yes, there were
probably.
air raid drills. They had erected two big towers, one on each end of the property to watch, so there wouldn't be an attack from the sea. And they used to be manned 24 hours a day. There was always a fellow up there. And, then it was always a neary feeling during a practice or a threatened air raid or anything else like that. You'd be in the building and the noise was horrendous.
I can
And
imagine.
then all of a sudden, everything would stop. The quiet was eerie.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, thank you so much, Jack. This has really been very nice.
There's an awful lot, but like you say, trying to put things together.
Yes.
I've never done it in chronological order, which I should do someday and jot it down. And,
Yeah.
works out better.